Here we go, another video, this time about hidden GOAT cards in NBA 2K20 My Team. Now before we get into this, I want to say a big thank you to everyone. We had a view goal for the first week and we beat it within 4 days. The channel's really generating some momentum, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who's done anything in relation to this channel, whether it's like a video, subscribe, join the Facebook group, whatever. It's really appreciated. One thing I would ask is, if you like the video and you find any of the advice I'm giving useful, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us generate momentum. So, GOAT cards. Now, throughout the year, I think, I didn't put this in my mistakes video, but a lot of people did make a mistake in the sense that they were blinded by tiers. What I mean by that is, an opal isn't always better than a pink diamond, especially as the year goes on. You know, if you compare some of those early opals to the later pink diamonds, the majority of those pink diamonds are better. It's a similar situation with these GOAT cards. I don't think a lot of people understand why they are GOAT cards. It doesn't mean that they're the greatest card of all time. It means that the player on the card is one of the greatest players of all time. Now, don't get me wrong, those cards are overpowered, almost all of them, but there are plenty of cards in this game that are equal to those GOAT cards, and the only reason they're not a GOAT card, the only reason it doesn't have those 4 letters on the card, is because the player on the card isn't considered one of the greatest players of all time. Now, I'm going to show you a list of quite a few players, to be honest, that will compete with any GOAT squad. If you run up against a squad that's entirely GOATs, this squad will compete against it, and you will have probably about a 5% difference in meta. I mean, the GOAT cards may be 5% more overpowered, but that 5% is not going to be the difference between a win and a loss. So I'm going to help you go get those cards today so you can run a team with no GOAT cards in it and still compete with that GOAT squad. So first up, we've got this George Murisan. He's about 35k. I think you'll probably get him for 30 or under. He's a good place to start because Yao Ming is, you know, one of the most popular cards in the game. And I think, George, if you're new, especially if you're new to the game, this is a really good card to pick up. There was a lot of centers throughout the year that actually weren't very good. Taco Fall was a good example. I didn't like that card. I liked playing against it. It just didn't seem to have the strength to stop my team. But George is a good example of a player who is really good for a beginner because you can't teach 7'7", and you know, he's taller than Yao. Now, if you look at the attributes, he's slightly down, you know, on pretty much everything. But when you get into the tendencies, this guy is completely Tendo glitched. You can see he's actually outperforming Yao on most of these stats. So George is a good place to start. If you're new, George is a good player to have in your team. So next up we have Anthony Davis. The NBA is back one. He has an immediate advantage over Larry Bird in the fact that he's 6'10". If you look at the Hall of Fame badges, he hasn't got as many, but I think he's got all the important badges. I think the ones that Larry Bird has over Davis are less important. Attributes, you can see 1, 2, maybe 3 difference across the board. This is what I mean by 5% shift in the meta. It's not going to make any difference, and Davis already has that high edge. But then you get into the tendencies. Now, defensively, look at this. There's a significant difference. Running Anthony Davis at power forward is a better defensive choice than Larry Bird. Now, I love the Larry Bird card. I'm not saying you shouldn't use it, but Anthony Davis for around 60 to 80k is a really good option. So LaMelo Ball is the next one, and I think he's going for around 100k still. He's not the cheapest card, but I'm comparing him to Magic Johnson for a really specific reason. You can see the same situation with the Hoff badges. He's got all the important ones, slightly less, but won't make a difference. He's 1 inch shorter, again, not going to make a huge difference at point guard. Attributes, again, you can see 1 overall jump in most places. You know, nothing major. Again, within 5% overall, I think, in terms of the meta. But again, the tendencies. You know, you could argue very quickly here that LaMelo's better than Magic Johnson, especially defensively. You know, he destroys Magic Johnson on the defensive end. Now, I will say Magic's probably a better defender than these tendencies give him. I don't think they actually add up in the game. But there's one key reason why I've compared these two cards. They're pretty much the same card. I spoke about that Magic Johnson behind the back, which teleports him from one side of the court to the other. LaMelo has the same animation, so very similar cards. LaMelo an easy alternative for Magic Johnson. Next up we have the fan favourites Cam Reddish. Now, comparing him to Durant is tough because I genuinely think Durant might be the best card in the game after using him for a week. He is a little bit outgunned on attributes. It's probably closer to 10% if you look at the overall sort of difference. There's certain things as well. If you look at the standing dunk, you know, he's massively out, you know, mismatched there. But how often are you going to be doing a standing dunk with these two players? Now, tendency-wise, there's a bit of a trade-off with both of them. There is a flaw to Cam Reddish, and there's one use for him, to be honest. That's why I'm including him in this list. You know, defensively, he is a bit of a liability, if I'm honest. But there's something about this card, offensively, where I think he might be a top 5 offensive card in the game. Now, I spoke about how much I love that Diamond Cam Reddish. It was an amazing card. I think I put it down as the second most important card released this year. But you bring this Cam Reddish off the bench for 10 minutes, you know, 5 minutes, maybe a quarter, he will do damage off the bench. His rim run, his shot, everything about him, he's so easy to use. I strongly recommend Cam Reddish as a backup small forward. Next up, we have fan favourites Dino Raja. I love this card. I think it's amazing. I've put him up against Shaq for a reason. So I used Shaq. I've got him actually. I don't like that card. There's something about the way Shaq moves on the court that feels really unnatural and really unresponsive. Whereas Dino's probably the complete opposite of that. Now, the first thing I'm going to point out between these two cards is if you look at the pictures. Dino Raja's arms. Look where they are. That's a real picture of him. You know, they're coming down towards his knees, but in the game it's even, you know, it's exaggerated even more. His wingspan is just insane. He's got a great release. I'm going to say I would rather run this Dino over Shaq. I actually replaced Shaq with Wilt because I think he's a better defender in my squad, but Dino is potentially the better card here. He's 6'11", Shaq's 6'1", 7'1", sorry. You're going to get, again, that 5% difference maybe on attributes. Tendencies, you know, Shaq's are higher, but it doesn't translate to the game. It really doesn't. I have more success, like if you look here defensively, Shaq's got there's slightly higher ratings, but Dino's definitely a better defender, without question. Badges is close. This is not an alternative for Shaq. I think it's potentially a better version of him. Next up, we have another fan favourites card, which is Eddie Curry. Now, you can see height-wise, he's pretty close to Kareem, and it's always tough to compare a card to Kareem, but this might surprise you. Puff badges, they're really close. Hardly any difference there. Attributes, again, really close. I think it's probably, if you average this all out, it's probably less than 5%. They're really close. Now, one thing Eddie Curry does that Kareem doesn't is he dribbles like a point guard. You can use Eddie Curry as your main ball handler throughout a game. So he's got that going for him. But then look at this. There's a huge trade-off in the tendencies. But where it really matters for a centre, the primary thing you want your centre to do is this. Look at the difference between Eddie Curry and Kareem. Now, we know how good Kareem is. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Eddie Curry's a better card. Kareem's lateral movement, there's so many things he does well, but Eddie Curry is there with him, and he's a fraction of the price. So if you don't want to lock in for Kareem, go get Eddie Curry. He'll do 99% of the same things. Next up, we have NBA is back, Brandon Ingram. Now, I don't know how this card got lost in the shuffle, but severely underrated. He's an inch shorter than Durant. He's got 9 less Hall of Fame badges, but he's got 7 more gold, so they'll have roughly the same badges. Look how close he is to KD, and I just said, you know, I think KD might be the best card in the game. Certainly from picking him up, he's been the top scorer in almost every game I've played so far. But look how close Ingram is. You average this out, you're maybe at 2%, 3% maybe. It's so close, it's so close. Tendencies, Durant does have the edge in most areas, but Ingram is a very, very similar card to KD, and when you say a fraction of the price, he's about 20% of the cost of this KD. When you add that all up, you're getting much more value from Ingram, and Ingram can run as a replacement for KD. Next up, we have Michael Beasley, who's the 12-0 reward. Comparing him to KD, and again, it continuously is tough to compare cards to Kevin Durant because that card is so good. But Beasley can hold his own against him. You can see here the badges again are similar. KD's got more Hall of Fame badges. Beasley's got more gold badges. They'll level out in that department. He's an inch shorter, which is fine. I'm assuming you're going to run both of these cards at shooting guard, by the way. And again, attributes. You average all of this out, maybe at 5%. Now, KD is a better card than Beasley. You could probably argue he's 10% better, let's say that. But when you compare the price of Kevin Durant to Michael Beasley, who is free, don't think there's enough of a difference there. So if you're looking for a really cheap alternative to KD, go and get Mike Beasley for free. Next up, we have NBA is back Chris Middleton. Now, I have to include this card, mainly because it's under 10k. You know, Durant's sitting at around 300,000, Middleton at about 10k. Now, Middleton is another card that you want to run at shooting guard. It's kind of annoying that I can't compare him to a shooting guard because it'll only compare to their primary position. But Middleton again, 60 Hall of Fame badges for under 10k. He's 6'8", but at shooting guard, that's a really good height. And then again, going through the attributes, there's not enough of a difference there. I think these two are really close, actually. I think I might average it out at some point, maybe 2% when you add it all up. They're really, really close. Tendency-wise, KD, again, he just has the edge because he's so good. He is so good in this game. But Chris Middleton, you know, against a player who's slightly better, against a player who's slightly worse, the player who's better having Chris Middleton will beat the player who's worse having Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is not overpowered and compared to Chris Middleton enough to bridge a skill gap. So next up we have Zion Williamson from the NBA is back. Now, I'm going to compare him to Larry Bird because I don't have Dirk or Tim Duncan. So he's the only GOAT card that actually is a power forward in my squad. But yeah, let's get into this. There's no difference there. Absolutely no difference. He's 6'6", which is tough, so you're not going to want to run him at power forward. You need to run him at small forward. Attributes, they're the same. There's less than 1% difference there. Exactly the same. But, again, Zion just blowing Larry Bird out in the defensive areas. Now, Larry Bird offensively is a better card, for sure. And he's free, so not the best comparison. Again, you compare him to a Tim Duncan, I would potentially look at the Zion. But again, he's dominant defensively. Now, one weird thing about this Zion card is he's got a really, really nice shot. He can green from absolutely anywhere. And again, Larry Bird the same. In this scenario, I mean, it's not going to save you any money. He's probably around the same price as Tim Duncan and Dirk. You compare him to other small forwards, though, I think, you know, you're really looking at probably Larry or Durant from the GOAT cards. You know, when you get into the bigger cards, Giannis, LeBron, etc., Zion probably will be at a loss. But again, won't bridge the skill gap. This Zion can do everything. If you know how to use him, if the skill gap is close, Zion will hold his own against any card in this game. Next up, we have the NBA is back, Nikola Jokic, and I'm comparing him purposely to Shaq because they are pretty much the same card. Shaq has a 1-inch height difference. Check this out for how little a GOAT card means. Nikola Jokic has more badges than GOAT Shaq. That's the thing. Their attributes are identical, basically. Again, 1% for sure when you average it all out. There's even a couple of areas when Jokic beats Shaq, including that three. I hate that Shaq three-point shot. And tendencies, you know, Shaq's will be slightly better in areas. Jokic will be slightly better in areas. There's no difference. I don't like this Shaq card, and transparency, I'm not a big fan of this Jokic card. I don't like the way either of them move. You can see the lateral quickness there is 99 for Shaq. It doesn't feel like it. These are replacements for each other. I think Jokic is under 10k. I think Shaq is around 200k. Honestly, just pick up Jokic in this instance. Next up, we have token rewards, Mo Bamba. Now this one really hurts me because when they released that locker code for 750 tokens, I went for the tokens and I got a pack and I pulled a Hakeem out of it and was furious. But if I had got the tokens, I wouldn't have gone and opened 100 lights out packs. I already had Bol Bol. This is the card I would have picked up. Now, Mo Bamba, I don't have him, so I can't compare him to another card. But 52 Hall of Fame badges, 14 gold, right? 66 badges is more than enough, and he's got all the important ones. But as with a lot of these cards, you know, attributes, they're just high across the board. Everything you need him to do, he can do. He's actually got quite a nice release as well. But tendencies, this guy is completely overpowered. To have 52 Hall of Fame badges, you'd kind of think maybe, you know, he can't hold his own against most GOAT cards, but he can. Look at those tendencies that are on the screen. That's just loading in. But when you get to his defensive tendencies, it doesn't get any better than that. If you need a centre, maybe you'd be better at power forward. If you've got tokens, if you haven't used that GOAT tokens locker code yet, go use it. Go pick up Bamba. It's probably another card you want to pick up before it if you don't have it, but this card can do everything, and he is locked down in defense. So the next 4 cards are very different to the cards that came before it, because I think the next 4 cards are better options than the GOAT cards. We're going to start with James Wiseman. I'm going to compare him to Shaq again. He's getting tanked a little bit in this video, but is what it is. So James Wiseman, I have a GOAT squad now. James Wiseman is my power forward off the bench. The way this card moves, I mean, you talk about a 7'1" card moving like a point guard. He's got that Chris Bosh shot, which is just money from anywhere. He can do everything, and we'll get into the badges. He's got, you know, comparable badges again, everything that you would need. Attributes again, not far away, very close, 1-2% on average. Not going to cost you a game. And then, you know, there's a bit of a tendency trade-off. Now, the thing about Wiseman is he's not the best defender. He gets rebounds, but he's not the best defender. But if you want a stretch big, if you want someone at centre or power forward who can shoot, James Wiseman has the best shot for any big in this game. Go pick him up. Now next up we have a card that really explains the concept of this video. The Kawhi Leonard NBA is back Opal. So why is this not a GOAT card? Because it is a GOAT card. If you compare everything, you know, they've got 74 badges each. This is almost identical all the way through. Tendencies again, the same all the way through. Just a bit of a trade-off here and there. You know, running both these cards at shooting guard is completely overpowered. So why is Kawhi Leonard not a GOAT card when the actual card is? Well, it's because for whatever reason 2K decided that Kawhi Leonard isn't a GOAT. That's it. If he wins a championship this year and they release GOAT cards again next year, this same exact card will come out and it will be a GOAT card. Now, this card is expensive and rightfully so, but there is a clone of this card, as I've spoken about before, that's free. Rudy Gay is free, and he's quite easy to get right now. I think you've got to go 11-0 at worst, and yeah, you'll pick up Kawhi Leonard. He's just called Rudy Gay, so go get the Rudy Gay, run him at shooting guard, elite, and it's free. It will compete with this KD, trust me. Next up, we have that token rewards bowl that I keep talking about. So this is a card you want to run at small forward. He's 7'2" at small forward. Now there is a real argument to be made, and a lot of the elite players are making this argument as well, that Bol is the best small forward in the game. Now looking at his badges, you know, I think he's got 70 total, Durant's got 74. Again, everything that you would need. Attributes is close again, as you can see. I did pull a shoe out of a triple threat board, I think, the cheap shoe, so I just stuck it on him to get his rebounding up. But again, not enough difference here. But even if you say there's a 5% difference here, and you know, maybe a 5% difference on the tendencies as well, probably a bit higher than that to be honest, you can see his defensive stats are still pretty elite, just behind KD. The fact that he's 7'2" and the player build as well, Bol is getting steals from the other side of the court. If you're a defensive player, if you're a defensive-minded player, which I am, that's how I approach this game. Bol could be your best option at small forward, better than possibly any GOAT card out there. Like I said, elite players are running this Bol over Giannis, over LeBron. There's something special about this card. I hate to say it again, but if you've got 750 tokens and didn't pick up this Bol, that was a mistake. And finally, we have Ben Simmons, point guard, NBA is back. Now, Ben Simmons is the best point guard in this game. He's better than GOAT LeBron and he's better than GOAT Giannis, and I'm going to tell you why. He's 6'10", so he competes at height-wise with Giannis, and he beats LeBron. Hall of Fame badges, comparing him to Magic, everything you need. Attributes, almost identical, less than 1% difference there. Tendencies, Magic has the edge on the offense. Ben Simmons absolutely obliterates him on the defense. Now, why is he better than Giannis and LeBron? Well, LeBron is a broken card. I don't have a GOAT LeBron. I picked him up and I sold him. He has two major flaws, that card. He has a layup package which is absolutely broken. He'll miss 50% of them for absolutely no reason. And he is constantly shooting corner twos. He takes a step and his positioning is just off. Every time he's open in the corner, it's 2 points. So that LeBron, through those two flaws, becomes really devalued. Ben Simmons doesn't do either of those things. And the best thing about LeBron is his dribble package. And Ben Simmons has the same one. That dribble glitch that you want to do up the court with LeBron with a Pro 3, I think it is. Ben Simmons has the same animation. So Ben Simmons is better. He's taller, he doesn't have flaws, and he has the same animation. And he's got a better shot. Crazy thing to say about Ben Simmons, but his shot is better than LeBron's. And with Giannis, I think they're very similar cards in terms of the player build. I think they're very similar cards in terms of defense. But I think Simmons has a nicer shot and has way better dribble animations. Now, Simmons isn't cheap. He's around the 200k mark. But when you think about LeBron and Giannis being at 700k, you're paying more for a worse card there. I left Ben Simmons last because I wanted to leave this one in your mind. If you've got Giannis or LeBron, pick up this Simmons and then you tell me which one you prefer. So there you have it. A whole host of alternatives to these GOAT cards. Going back to the start, remember, just a GOAT card is a GOAT card because it's one of the best players of all time. It's talking more about the player on the card than the card itself. And yes, again, the top cards are definitely overpowered. But there are cards out there that are equal or certainly not going to make the difference. I understand if you just want to collect the GOAT cards, but if you're trying to be competitive, we've maybe got a day or two left to get Oscar if you wanted him. You don't need to run this squad. You don't need to have KD. You don't need to have Giannis. You don't need to have Kareem or Yao. They're not integral. If you run up with the players I just spoke about against a squad like this, I assure you the difference will only be skill. The better player will win that game. So, if you've got 300k GOAT card and nothing else, sell that GOAT card, pick up some of those cards I spoke about, and see how you get on. I guarantee you'll do a lot better. Thanks for watching, guys.